Hello there guys, Mark here. I hope you are well. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to create a self-defense paracord lanyard. This project, in my opinion, is quite decorative, but it is also practical. Now, the practical part of this lanyard is naturally self-defense, which is something that is regulated quite harshly in any area. So be sure to read up on the legality of carrying such an item as well as using it. Now hopefully you're not going to have to use it. You can also use it for the fun task of smashing pumpkins or just to display your knot tying skills. Let's take a quick look at the lanyard design that I'm going to be covering in this video. I started out at the bottom of my lanyard using a pineapple knot. Using the pineapple knot, I covered up a spherical object. I then continued with a 4-stranded round braid and braided the handle. I spliced the 4-stranded round braid back into itself to secure it. Then I covered the spliced section using a multi-strand gaucho knot. And with this, my project was complete. Now, these techniques are, on one hand, fairly simple to do, but we still have a couple of fancy knots. We have the pineapple knot and we have the gaucho knot. You can further spice up this project by adding additional decorative knots, such as a star knot here or between the pineapple knot and the gaucho-coded multi-strand Turk's head knot. You can also do your lanyard using more strands, different colors. You can do different designs for the handle. You have a lot to choose from. This tutorial basically serves as the foundation upon which you can build. With that said, let me show you the supplies and then let's get into the tying process. Let's take a look at the supplies. The first thing that you're going to need are going to be 2 long pieces of paracord. Now, for my project, which is about 1.5 feet long, so from the pineapple knot to the end of my handle, the total length is about 1.5 feet. We're going to need 2 pieces of paracord, each about 19 feet long, so about 5.7 meters. Besides our 2 longer pieces of paracord, we are also going to need 2 shorter ones about 3 feet long, so 90 centimeters each. These 2 are going to be used to tie this decorative knot. You are going to need a cord for the center of your pineapple knot. For my project, the cord is going to be a pull ball about 2 inches and 1/4 in diameter. So the diameter is 5.7 centimeters. You can alternatively use a large bearing. Perhaps you can also get away with using a tennis ball filled with sand. Basically, you need a spherical cord for the center of your pineapple knot. I recommend picking up a package of pool balls like this. This is quite affordable and you get a nice mix of colors. Naturally, you need to match the colors of your cords to the individual ball, but you get a nice selection at an affordable price. To tie your pineapple knot, you're also going to need a mandrel, so a cylindrical object onto which we're going to tie our knot, and then we're going to transfer it onto our cord. Now your mandrel needs to be of a larger diameter than your cord, so that you can slide it off and onto the object. In my case, my mandrel is a Pringles can about 3 inches in diameter, so about 7.5 centimeters. You can also use a metal can, a jar, maybe a piece of wood, whatever you have, as long as it is a bit larger in diameter than your cord. I also recommend using a rubber band to hold one end of your paracord while you are tying your pineapple knot. Next, what I recommend is using a lacing needle. The lacing needle is going to come in super handy. We use it to tie the pineapple knot, we use it for the splice, and we use it for our covering knot. So all in all, the lacing needle is almost mandatory. You can get away without using it, but it makes your job a ton harder. You are also going to need something to cut your cords with, and a lighter to melt the ends once you have cut them. With these supplies ready, we're going to jump into tying the pineapple knot. First thing that we need to do is to decide which cord we're going to use first. So we have two colors, which one goes first? The first cord is going to determine this outer edge. This is why I recommend that your first cord is in contrast with your cord. So in my case, since I am using a pool ball with blue color, I'm going to be using 10 for my first cord. Then the second one in blue color is going to be used for the interweave. So the edges are defined using your first cord, and the second cord defines the interweave. So now that I know which cord I'm going to use, I'm going to attach one end into my lacing needle. One end of our cord now sports a lacing needle. The other end is still free, and we're going to tuck it under the rubber band, which is placed onto our mandrel. So in my case, the Pringles can. Tuck your end under the rubber band. I have estimated that we're going to need about 12 to 13 feet of cord to tie our knot. Since our cord is longer, we can pull part of our cord under the rubber band. So I recommend that you pull about 6 feet of cord under the rubber band, and you use the remaining 13 feet to tie your knot. We are now going to begin tying our base knot. Our base knot is an 11-part 10-bite Turk's head. Pick up your cord and wrap it around. Come over your standing end like this and around again. Pass over this part, then pick up your working hand with the lacing needle attached. Pass under, over, like this. Then come around again, like this. Pick up your working hand and pass alongside the standing hand, traveling under, over. Like this. With your working hand, now pass over, under, over. So, over, under, over. Like this. Come around again, coming to the standing end. Pick up your working hand and notice that you have two parallel strands. So the standing end and the cord that is doubling it up. Split the two by traveling between these two cords and doing the opposite. So we go over, under, over. Like this. Then, here, from right to left, we're going to travel the opposite to this cord. So we travel under, over, under, over. Like this. Now come around again to your standing hand. What we're going to do now is again double it up. Travel alongside it, doing what it does. So under, over, under, over. Like this. Then, from right to left, we are again going to travel the opposite to this cord. So, over, under, over, under, and over. Like this. Come to your standing end, which is again doubled up. So basically we have a parallel strand running alongside the standing end. Split the two by traveling between these two strands and doing the opposite. So we do an over, under, over, under, and over. Like this. Now, From right to left, we're going to go the opposite to this chord. So we start under, over, under, over, under, and over. We are again at the standing hand. Again, double it up. So travel parallel to the standing hand and do what it does. So under, over, under, over, under, and over. Like this. Now again, travel parallel to this chord and do the opposite. So over, under, over, under, over, under, over. Like this. We have again reached the standing hand and the chord which is doubling it up. Split the two by traveling in between the two chords and doing the opposite. So over, under, over, under, over, under, and over. Like this. Now, from right to left, we're going to go the opposite to this strand. Here you can see that these two strands are parallel, and just like before, we're going to split them by traveling between them. So basically just travel the opposite to this chord. So under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over. Like this. And again, we're going to double up our standing hand. So travel parallel to it and double it up. Under, over, under, over, under, over, under, and over. Like this. Now, from right to left, we're going to travel the opposite to this chord. So travel over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, and over. Like this. We again have two parallel strands, so the standing hand and the chord to its right. We're going to split them by traveling in between the two chords and doing the opposite. So travel over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, and over. Like this. Now from right to left, we're going to travel the opposite to this cord. So basically we are again splitting a pair of parallel strands. So travel the opposite to this cord. Under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, and over. Like this. Once you exit on the left side, simply place your working hand alongside your standing hand, traveling under one. And with this, your 11-part 10-byte Turk's head is complete. Now what I'm going to do is take my working hand and place it under the rubber band. This just gets the working hand out of the way. My knot is a bit too tight, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work some slack from the working hand into the knot, and I'm going to loosen up my knot. Basically, I'm going to run from my working hand to the standing hand, redistributing some slack into the knot. This is going to make the tying of the interweave a lot easier. A loose knot is a lot easier to interweave than a too tight one. All in all, our base knot is complete. So now, all I'm doing is redistributing the slack into the knot. I just leave a little bit behind every time. Now you can also see that my knot is quite loose here, so it's not all that filled out, while here it is all bunched up. You can also fix this by loosening up the knot. You can also push the knot together here and spread it apart where it is bunched up. All of this is actually optional since the knot is secure and it is ready for the interweave. I have now loosened up my knot. I'm going to take my second cord, which is going to be used for the pineapple interweave, and I'm going to place it under the rubber band onto the left side of the first standing hand. So here. I'm going to tuck about 6 to 7 feet of cord under the rubber band. I don't need the entire length of my cord to do my interweave. So, starting on the left side of the standing end and using my lacing needle on the other end, I'm going to go under 2, over 1, under 1, over under, over under, over and under. We stop at an under just before exiting the knot. So this is what we have so far. We went parallel to the standing end of the first cord and we did our sequence, basically doubling up the strand on the left. On the right side, we are now going to turn towards the left side, traveling under 1, so under this cord, then continue over under, over under, over under, over and under. Again stopping at an under. After I pull my cord through, you can see how we turned from the right side towards the left. Effectively, we doubled up this top strand, creating a set of parallel strands. Now, from left to right, we again start with an under, then continue over under, over under, over under, over and under, stopping just before exiting the knot at an under 1. And again, you can see how we turned our cord from the left side towards the right side. Now, here, we're again going to turn our cord towards the left side, and we're going to split this pair of parallel strands. To do this, I'm going to travel under 2, over 1, under 1, over under, over under, over and under. Again, stopping just before exiting the knot with an under 1. So we again turned around our cord like this. On the left side, we do pretty much the same thing. We start our sequence with an under 2 to split this pair of parallel strands. So under 2, over under, over under, over under, over under, like this. Now, from right to left, we have two pairs of strands to split, this one and this one. To do this, we start our sequence under 2, over 2, and then under 1, like this. Then continue over under, over under, over under. And again, from left to right, we're going to pretty much repeat the process. So we start by splitting the two pairs of parallel strands. Under 2, over 2, under 1. Then over under, over under, over under. Like this. Now, from right to left, we have 3 pairs of parallel strands to split. To do this, we start under 2, over 2, under 2, like this. Then continue over under, over under, over under. And again, from left to right, we again have 3 sets of parallel strands to split. We start under 2, over 2, under 2. Continue over under, over under, over under. Then, from right to left, we have 4 sets of strands to split. We start under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 1. Then continue over under, over under. From left to right, we are pretty much going to repeat the same process. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of parallel strands to split. We start under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 1. Then continue over under, over under. We now have an additional pair of strands to split. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pairs. We start under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2, like this. Then continue over under, over under. And again, pretty much the same process. So, under 2 to split a pair, over 2 to split a pair, under 2 to split a pair, over 2 to split a pair, and under 2 to split a pair. Then continue over under, over under. Now, from right to left, we have 6 pairs of parallel strands to split. So we start under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2, under, over under. Like this. From left to right, we have the same process. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pairs to split. We start under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 1, over 1, and under 1. Like this. And we start our sequence with an additional pair to split. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pairs to split. We start under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2, over under. Like this. Then, from left to right, we repeat the process. So, under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2, over under. Like this. Then, from right to left, we again split a bunch of pairs. So, under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2, and under 1. Now, from left to right, we repeat the tying process. So, splitting pairs, starting with an under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 1. We are almost done. Start your next sequence again splitting pairs. Start under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2, and under 1. At this point, we have tied our knot. Continue by taking your working end and placing it alongside your standing end of the second cord, traveling under 2. Like this. So under 2. After tying our knot, it is time to prepare it so that we can transfer it onto a cord. In this step, we're going to work all 4 ends, so the 2 standing ends and the 2 working ends, to about the center of our knot. So the middle point, and let's say here, all 4 strands are going to come out. This is because later on we want to transition from our pineapple knot into our handle. So the 4-stranded round braid. So to do this, pick a spot alongside one of your standing ends. So in my case, I'm going to follow my second cord. So the second standing end. And I'm going to pick this spot here, where my standing end is going down under. I'm going to double up my standing end using my working end. So I'm going to travel over 2, under 2, then over 1, under 1. This way, both my working end and standing end come out through the same opening. Now I can remove my standing end since it is doubled up to this point. So you can see that both ends are coming out through the same opening. Now we're going to pick up our first working end and we're going to again double up the standing end using our first working end. So again, over 2, under 2, then continue over 2, and under 3, to come to basically the same spot. like this. I'm going to take my standing end and work it out like this. At this point, I have 3 ends here coming through the same opening. This one, so the standing end, needs a tiny bit more work, so I'm going to get it here under this strand. So here, and you can finally see what we were doing all this time. We got all 4 strands to come through the same opening in the knot. To transfer our knot, take it off of your mandrel like this. Take your core, place it inside. Shape up your knot around your core a little bit and then begin tightening. Now in the tightening process, I usually try to even out my 4 strands so that they end up about the same length. So I'm going to start at the longer of the 2 ends. So in my case, the standing end. Then I'm going to pull a bit of my standing end in and work it out through the knot all the way to the working end. So this is basically a very simple process of distributing the slack from one end to the other while also tightening up the knot. Now your first tightening doesn't need to be terribly accurate. We're going to do 2, maybe 3 tightenings to get the proper shape and tightness for our knot. So the first one can be fairly quick, just removing the basic slack that has built up in the knot. And finally, I pull the slack out of my working end. I have now tightened up my interweave. I'm going to pick up the other 2 strands, which are from our first cord. I'm going to check which is the longer one, and I'm going to start tightening at my longer strand. Again, I'm going to work it through the entire knot and remove the slack out of the other end. After tightening once with both of my cords, I have removed most of my slack out of the knot. I still have one, maybe two more tightenings to do. The goal of further tightenings is, well, to even out your knot and make it tighter, plus to get the seam length for all sets of strands. So these two ends should be of the same length, and these two. The third goal here is to line up these numbers on both sides. So here at the center and here at the center as well. So we're going to do our next tightening by again taking a look at which of my two cords is longer. So in this case, it is this one. So I'm going to work a part of it into the knot, then through the knot and out through the other end. This way we're going to even out not only the knot, but the length of our strands as well. After preparing our pineapple knot, we're going to continue by braiding a handle using our 4 strands. So this is going to be a 4-stranded round braid. I'm going to hook my pineapple knot into a loop. The loop holds my pineapple knot and allows me some tension in my cords. I'm going to spread apart my 2 sets of cords, 2 to one side, 2 to the other. To set up my braid, I'm going to take my top right strand and pass over under like this. I'm going to take the other strand on the right side and travel under over like this. And this is my basic setup. Now to begin braiding, take your top right strand, pass behind, in between the 2 strands on the left side, and back to the bottom on the right. Pick up your top left strand, pass behind, in between the 2 cords on the right, and back to the bottom on the left. And again, top right strand, behind, in between the 2 strands on the left, and back to the bottom on the right. Now the top left strand, behind, in between the 2 strands on the right, and back to the bottom on the left. And again, top right, behind, in between the 2 cords on the left, and back to the bottom on the right. And the top left, in between the 2 cords on the right side, and back to the bottom on the left. And that's the braiding process. we're going to use up most of our strands for the handle. You're going to need a bit over 1.5 feet left so that you can tie this decorative knot. So use up everything but 1.5 to 2 feet of your cords. I am now quite happy with the length of my handle. I'm going to finish it up by splicing all 4 ends back into the braid. To do this, I'm going to clip 2 of my ends together to hold them in place. I'm going to take one of the other 2 ends and attach a lacing needle. I'm going to bring the start of my braid and the end together like this. Then, using the end with the lacing needle, I'm going to follow one of the strands in the braid. So let's say this one here. So this one. Follow it. And we're going to do a few tucks, just following the strand. Like this. And then here. And once more here. And we are done with this strand. You can see that it doubles up one of the strands in the braid to the point where the pineapple knot is located. Now, take the other cord, which is not clipped into the clip. Again, attach a lacing needle and follow one of the strands in the braid. So in my case, I'm going to follow this one here. So this one of the same color. Again, doubling up a strand in the braid. So something like this. Unclip the remaining 2 strands. Pick one out and again work it into your braid. So this one is going to follow this one. Again, doubling up a strand in the braid. Now it is a good idea to basically line up your strands so that they exit one on each side of the braid. So these two here at the top and bottom, and this one on the left, and the last remaining one on the right. You're going to see later on why this is beneficial. For now, take the last remaining strand and again work it into the braid. We only have one free strand remaining, so we're going to double up the free strand. And there is your splice. As you can see, we have doubled up all of the strands in the braid. By splicing in the ends, we have secured our handle, and at this point all we need to do is finish up the ends. We are now going to hide the splice out of sight. To do this, I'm going to be using the 4 existing cords, and I'm going to add 2 more to produce 8 strands. To do this, I'm going to add 2 cords, each 3 feet long. Take one of the 3-foot-long cords and insert it through the braid like this. So basically, we have our 4 strands spaced out, one to each side. So one facing the top side, one facing the bottom side, one facing the left, one facing the right. Take the other cord, again 3 foot long, and insert it through the braid at an angle, just like before. So like this. Again, we have 4 strands, one facing up, one the left, one the right side, and one the bottom. I'm now going to demonstrate the covering knot which is going to hide the splice. I'm first going to tuck the handle and splice into a PVC pipe. This is not really required for you. It is just a tool that helps me show you this knot more clearly. Start off by picking up all 4 strands of your primary color. So like this. They should travel parallel and should not cross one another. Now do 2 wraparounds around your splice. So once and twice. We now have 8 strands through which we're going to weave using our 4 ends. The sequence is always going to be the same. Under over, under over, under over, under over. So 4 unders, 4 overs. Pick up your first strand and travel under over, under over, under over, and under over. Pick up your second strand, pass under your first strand here, so under it, then continue over, under, over, under, over, under, and over. Take your third strand, pass under the previous one that you used, so the second one, pass under it, then over, under over, under over, under and over. And finally the last of our strands passes under the third strand that we used, so our previous one, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over. Like this. I'm now going to weave in the other 4 cords. Each of my unused cords is going to follow one of my cords coming out of the splice. So take one and travel alongside the cord coming out of the splice. So over under, over, under, over, under, over. Take the next cord and follow another cord coming out of the splice. So over under, over, under, over, under, and over. And the next cord, again, follows one of the cords coming out of the splice. So, over under, over under, over under, and over. And our last strand again follows a cord coming out of the splice. Over under, over under, over, under and over. Now all of my cords are on the right side. We are now going to weave our 4 strands from the right side to the left. Pick up a strand which is finishing its sequence with an over 1. Start your next sequence under 2, like this, then continue with an over 2 under 2 sequence. So over 2, to split a pair, under 2 to split a pair. Over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2, like this, coming over 1 on the left. Pick up your next strand, start your next sequence under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2, and over 1 on the left. Pick up the next cord and again under 2, like this, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2, and over 1 on the left. Pick up the last remaining strand, travel under 2, like this, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2, and finally over 1 on the left. At this point, our knot is tied. You can probably make out a gaucho sequence, so a zigzag pattern. We are now going to finish up the 8/10 on the left side. To do this, I'm going to first do my 4 chords of the primary color. So my first 4 chords. I'm going to check that my chord passes over to, here on the left, past a strand of the same color coming out of the splice. Then simply travel under the knot to the right side. Pick up the next strand of the same color. Again, make sure you go over to, past a cord coming out of the splice. Then simply under and to the right, like this. And the next chord, I'm going to travel over to, past a cord of the same color coming out of the splice. Then under and through the knot. And the last chord, again, make sure that it passes over to, past a strand coming out of the splice. Then travel under and through the knot. So 4 strands complete. Now the other 4. This time again we make sure that we travel over to, going past a strand of the same color coming out of the splice. Then travel under and through the knot. Like this. And the next one, again, over to, coming to a strand coming out of the splice. Travel under the knot and to the right side. And the next one, again, over to, coming past a strand of the same color coming out of the splice. Then travel under and through the knot. And the final strand, over to, past a strand coming out of the splice of the same color, and then simply under and through the knot. Like this. So now how do you tighten everything up? You start at the strands on the left coming out of the splice. Then you run the slack from the start through the knot, like this, then out of one of the ends. You pick up the next strand that you would like to tighten up, and again pull the slack through the knot, and out of one of the ends. We're going to do this with all 8 of our strands, maybe even 2 times to get a nice looking knot. So every time, simply start at a strand coming out of the splice, pull the slack through the knot, and out of one of the ends. And then the next one again, starting out of the splice, running the slack out, and out of one of the ends. After some tightening, I am quite happy with the pattern in my knot. At this point, I'm going to trim all of the ends like this. After cutting off the ends, we're going to lightly melt them. Make sure that you don't burn any of the surrounding cords. Like this. At this point, our project is pretty much complete. I'm going to move on to the few finishing touches that I do. The first thing that I consider almost a must is to roll this covering knot. I place it between two planks, then I rotate it and roll it. Press down firmly to flatten out your knot. And this is the knot after rolling. In my opinion, the difference is quite noticeable. You can do a sort of rolling or flattening on the pineapple knot as well. This is especially useful if you have gaps like these. In this case, you again take a plank and you simply rub it over the pineapple knot. Press down firmly to flatten down your cords. And I have also flattened down the cords in my pineapple knot. With this, my project is pretty much complete. So guys, this is our project. I hope that you were able to complete it and that I demonstrated everything clearly enough. It took quite a bit of effort and time to do, so it means quite a bit to me to see the tutorial used. So, if it worked for you, please do comment on your success and your challenges as well. With that said, please be respectful using this lanyard and do follow the local laws. Thank you very much for joining me today, and I hope to see you next time.